Hi, welcome to a conversation with Billy Selekane. I'm here tonight at the venue at Melrose Arch. We had the most fantastic seminar, which is called 21st Century Leadership, where we had men and women having a very powerful and robust, conversation around leadership. And by the way, this leadership conversation took two different turns. One was very biblical, like foundation of biblical. The other one was at a level of self-actualization and what people fear and call New Age. And it is not called New Age, it's just new thought, using old wisdom, thinking anew, because even the Bible talks about transforming the mind. So I'm going to spend some time here with Bishop Carlton Pearson. And if you don't know who this guy is, maybe you should call TD Jakes and ask TD Jakes who this guy is. Maybe he's going to give you a better introduction. But without wasting any time, I'm going to hand over to my great brother here from the US of A, Dr. Bishop. I'm already blessing you to become a doctor.
I like it.
Carlton Pearson. In a very quick synopsis, tell us who you are and what got you to get into this space that you're in now.
Well, I'll tell you some of the things I've done, because that doesn't really say who I am. Who I am is a transcendent, evolving human being that is loving my own curiosity, asking questions, answering questions, and then questioning my answers. That enlarges me enormously. I'm a fourth generation, though, classical Pentecostal preacher. My maternal great-grandfather, my dad, his dad, been around the fundamentalist Christian Pentecostal church for many years, was consecrated a bishop in 1996 by the present bishop of the Church of God in Christ, Charles Blake, a protege of Oral Roberts. I was on the Board of Regents for 16 years and was his associate evangelist and was sort of in line to succeed him. Mm-hmm. Then I changed my thinking and my theology, my God logic, and began to believe that if in fact there is heaven, that everybody ultimately would be there, because that would be the best end of all things, and that there's probably no eternal torture chamber called hell, that's something humans in their fear-based theology created and wrote Bibles and books to affirm it, and then idolized hell and the devil and the dark side of human consciousness and made a religion out of it.
Wow. And
that people can be free, and that got me in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a movie about all this. It's called Come Sunday, and it comes out next year, and it stars Chiwetel Ejiofor, who plays me in the movie from 12 Years a Slave, born in Nigeria, raised in London. Condola Rashad plays my wife. That's Felicia and Ahmed's daughter. Mm-hmm. Martin Sheen plays Oral Roberts.
Wow.
Danny Glover's in it, plays my uncle. Jason Segel and others, but it's in post-production now.
Okay.
So it'll come out in 2018 in theaters and then Netflix.
Wow, that's very cool. I can't wait for it.
Yeah.
Now, you and Dr. Beckwith are speaking about old wisdom and new thinking.
Yes, sir.
So it's kind of like a dichotomy. How do you apply old wisdom into a new way of making things happen? Because people have a sense that we've got to move ahead.
Yes.
That old wisdom is good as a foundation, but we should not go back to our history because it might hold us down.
Yeah.
We should look forward to new innovation, new ways of doing things. How do you match the two, old wisdom and new thinking?
Well, we call it ancient wisdom, and I define wisdom as wisdom. When a person can do a thing, he can always have a job. When he knows why to do that thing, he's usually going to be the boss.
Wow.
Jesus once said, I no longer call you my slaves or servants, I call you because a slave doesn't know his master's business.
Yes.
I call you friends, partners. You own stock in the company. You know why we do this.
Wow.
There's a different kind of ownership. So wisdom, the ancients had a knowledge before they had beliefs. I think in some pre-incarnate reality, we all agree to come here, but between the womb and the tomb, we forget we said yes, and we start panicking because our life is not figured out. And out of that panic, we begin to become defensive, and we fight and we feud. But when we say yes to the fact that we probably, in some pre-existent reality, human reality, we probably said yes. We'll come to the universe, to the earth, to experience our own human divinity, express that human divinity, and expose it. When we do that, we remind the people we're around of their divinity, and you stop feeling cheap. You lose your victim consciousness. You stop being a victim and become a victor. No wars in that, no competition in that. There's not even a lot of comparatives in that. We just be. We're human beings, not human doings.
Wow.
makes a huge difference.
Because the fascinating thing is, if you go to the eastern side of the world, like in Malaysia and those kind of places, when they greet, they say namaste. And what namaste means is my spirit acknowledges your spirit.
The divinity in me acknowledges the divinity in you.
It's when I had this thing, I almost cried because I was oh my God. It's like, so if I walk into a room, my being is inspired by the beings that are in the room, because without these beings in the room, I cannot get to a place of giving out to the world that was deposited in me to come and give.
Good, yes.
And I find that quite amazing, because one of the things that I've always been fighting in the box of the religious way of thinking was Jesus Christ said, you'll find the truth and the truth will set you free. And I've been saying, what is this truth, you know? And for me, when I ask people, they say, oh, the truth is the light. And I said, but I say, he could not have said, go and find it if we did not lose it. You're not sent to go and find something that you don't know, that you've never had. And so in your new journey of discovering and moving into a level of self-actualization where the confines and the dogmas of man did not control your way of thinking, the way that you interpret the world, how has that given you or taken away the weight off your shoulders?
Well, Jesus said, ye shall know the truth. He didn't say believe it. Everybody knows the truth. We just don't believe it. We believe what we've been taught and told by parents and religion or whatever. But we know what our soul, our very selves have experienced. And I believe a lot of that is pre-incarnation. I didn't say re, though I think that has a place too. But before I was incarnated or incarcerated in my flesh, I came here knowing my great challenge, is yours and Cameron and everybody, is spiritual amnesia. Between the womb and the tomb, we forget that we said yes and we start saying no. So there's an unfolding. You are truth. You don't just know it. You are truth. But we impersonate liars. We imposters of deception. We talk stuff because, again, practice doesn't just make perfect, it makes permanent. So we're starting to disbelieve, and I'm unlearning stuff that, and I have layers and I'm 64 years old, layers and layers of this stuff. I keep peeling off back to the original nudity of Genesis. Here's what the word means. It is the Greek word arom and aron, subtle or crafty. It says the circle was more crafty or subtle. That word means naked or cunning, vulnerable, exposed, slick, smart, conscious than any other animal in the garden. And another scripture says Adam and Eve were naked and felt no shame. We use clothes and titles and anything to cover up our nakedness, and that's our beauty, our vulnerability, our openness, our awareness. But we stop knowing, we substitute knowing for believing. Wow. At 64 years, the biggest conflict in my life is what my soul knows and what my head believes.
Absolutely.
And I'm taking all those beliefs and throwing them away and letting knowledge manifest in itself, in me, through me, to me, as me.
I mean, the way that you're speaking, if you look at agnostics, you know, it's fascinating that people are pushing them away as heretics and but these guys were right.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's fascinating because I'm an ardent student of life. So and that's why people find me curious, because I go and say, listen, you know, it's like I do a lot of organizational transformation. And I tell leaders that you pretend that your company is flat. Your company is not flat. You're still using the model that was created by the Romans in 2 BC. There's the general, there's the lieutenant, there's the army, and then there's everybody's going to die for everybody. And you guys make the profits. And you say, oh, our organizational structure is flat. It's not flat. And now the fascinating thing about it is, how do we inspire people to really go to the deep search for this knowledge? You know, because people would hide behind the Bible and quote a few scriptures, and some of them quote them to hide themselves behind the kind of scriptures. But how do we just say to people, it's okay, go search and find this knowledge here, and when you get it, it's going to shock you, but it's cool, man. Embrace it. How do we do that?
Well, there's a passage in scripture where Jesus says, do this in remembrance. To remember is to remember your dismembered, fragmented, broken self. We leave parts of ourself and our soul in a conversation, a text, and an email, on the phone, in our second grade classroom, something that happened to us with a high school lover, a coach. We have, and we're fragmented. But when we start pulling ourselves, our broken selves, start remembering or reconnecting, it's all called divine recollection. I actually am experiencing some kind of spiritual deja vu. It's like I remember that I did this before, or I agreed to do that, I signed up for all this, that I'm not a victim of circumstances or creation or of destiny. I'm a victor over all of it. I'm victorious. I came here well equipped to deal with whatever. I go with the flow and I grow with the flow, even when the flow becomes a flood. So the ancients who didn't have any of this technology and survived and learned how to write and think and
build the pyramids, and we still can't describe how they build them.
How?
According to the solar system, we still don't know how they did it.
And that they fit so close that nowhere air or water can get in, and they're cut. Who could cut? And who could lift? Some of them were 10 million tons and pounds. How could that happen? Must be some extraterrestrial or some masterful intelligence from somewhere. You know, the scripture says, the Hebrew Bible says, in beginning gods. It doesn't say God.
Wow.
It's Elohim, not El. Elohim is the plural of El. In beginning gods created. So there's a consortium or council of deities or entities that created heavens and one earth. The heavens, so there's several higher places and spaces of consciousness to go. When Jesus said, in my Father's house there are many mansions, the word really means many dimensions, or apartments, or compartments, floors, levels, spaces, spheres, spaces and phases. So as we grow and expand, we move from one floor to another floor, and we're elevated. There's something powerful to resurrection. The word erect means to build or correct. You're putting things back where they belong.
Absolutely.
That's a powerful, and everybody wants to rise up and be who they are, instead of cowering low. I'm nobody, I'm nothing. I'm wretched, I'm undone, God hates me. We said, God loves me, but you don't believe God likes you.
Absolutely, because, you know, in the psychological terms, they say that a lot of people are suffering from what's called the imposter syndrome.
Yeah, imposter syndrome.
Yes, because a lot of people who are great, who know they've got gifts, but they feel it's not their gift. You know, they feel like somebody's doing me a favor by clapping for me. Somebody's doing me a favor by paying me what I believe I'm worth. And therefore, a lot of great talented people can never realize their true potential because they suffer from this thing. So it's that thing that says, from womb to tomb, you were given an assignment, but you come in here, your belief system changes because of what you hear, and then you begin to shrink in order to fit in. Because if you become the essence of who you are, you suddenly
people think your confidence is arrogance.
Absolutely.
And because you don't want to feel arrogant, you say, no, I'm nothing, I'm nobody. But if I say, you're brilliant, you're sharp, you're smart, you're intelligent, you're articulate, you go, well, you don't really know me, and I struggle. But if I say you're a dummy, you're backwards, you'll go, who are you talking about?
Absolutely.
Because you know you're good.
Absolutely.
You know you're God with
Absolutely.
a little G. You know you're divine. But so what my objective is to help people bridge their humanity. Don't apologize for being human, to your divinity. And don't apologize for being divine. Bridging, I think God, who and whatever God is, wanted to experience itself, and the only way it could was through humans. We are human deities, human entities, very powerful, very magnificent. We're creative. We're not just created, we're creative, and we're creating right now, just like we create saliva and urine and blood vessels and corpuscles and capillaries. We're creating our reality. The reality I'm living right now as a 64-year-old man, I helped create it, because what you think about, you bring about.
Absolutely. As a man think gets socially heavy.
Absolutely. Thoughts are powerful.
Now, you spoke about helping people through this transitional process. How do you do that?
You make them rethink. First, you use your power to enchant. Words, I'm a speaker, so we spell words, but words also spell us, or cast spells on us. That's what a spell-binding speaker is called. You're under that person's enchantment. That could be Hitler.
Absolutely.
Or that could be Martin Luther King. The power of those words and how they impact people, it casts a spell on them. There's a bunch of people in America right now who are under Trump's spell.
Yeah, absolutely. When I was there, it's crazy. It's
Dear
like,
God.
and I thought this is the same America that produced these great inventors, these great preachers, these great teachers, and all this dumbness.
I know.
I'm thinking, are you kidding me?
I know.
I'm thinking, man, this is unbelievable.
We've never been more embarrassed. And most of
Actually, here's a joke that I say, and actually it's a joke that Trevor says, Donald Trump is exactly everything that everybody thought a black president would be. And Barack Obama was exactly what a white president should be.
And what they thought he was, and that's why they liked him, except even white evangelical Christians. They're the ones that are his major supporters.
Yes, I mean, I don't want to mention names, we'll mention them off the camera, but it's quite surprising because there are men and women who very enlightened, who teach very transformational, and then suddenly you think, are you kidding?
Stunned.
It's unbelievable. So we're going back to how you take people through this process, and you spoke about the enchantment of words. So do you have a lack of a better word, do you have a retreat, do you have a training program, do you have a coaching and mentoring program that assists people to break away from this shell and get to that space of their own divinity?
I have a mentoring program called Filling the Gaps, and I'm doing creating more online because I have literally thousands of people who want to be personally mentored. Of course, you can't do that many, but you create programs. I'm restructuring my whole online presence. We have about 30,000 consistent followers. Okay. There are many more than that, but the ones that are really locked into me are about 30,000. So I'm creating program. My next book is titled "You're Not in Trouble, You're in Transition."
Wow.
Making, managing, and mastering change. Because this is a changing culture, a changing society. This is not the South Africa he was born in. This is not the America I was born in. It has changed so dramatically.
Absolutely.
I'm fascinated. So we're trying to learn how to deal with, this is so interesting, what I said about the apple, the apple on here has a bite out of it.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we disciples of this man, we're fans. We actually, if they say there's something coming up, we don't know what it is, we'll figure out we want to have it, but we want it.
Yes, yes. Well, see, the scripture says that they ate from the tree of the knowledge. That means the science of good. There's a science of good, and there's a science of evil. There's a science in good, and there's a science in evil.
Absolutely.
So there's good and evil in both. We separate it and make them opposites, but they're really coordinates. They cooperate. They co-operate, not co-opposite.
Absolutely.
Even when we call the female, or in male and female, opposite sex, you're sending the subliminal message that is your opposition.
No, but it's your
corresponding.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The yin and yang Chinese.
Yeah, co-respondent.
Yeah.
Not opposite. We need to quit using that. That's why the divorce rate in America is 67%.
Wow.
You just don't get along because in your mind you're not supposed to.
Absolutely, because it has been ingrained in your subconscious.
Yeah.
Now, the fascinating thing about your traditional religion is there's a book by Dante Alighieri, Dante's Fire. Have you read the book?
No.
It's a scary. This guy was an Italian poet, and he wrote about the 7 hells. The hell for the glutton, the hell for the thief, the hell. And it's fascinating because if you read that book, it's exactly how the scare religion is based on.
The scare trap.
Say if you're a thief, you're going to go this way, bend 7 times. If you eat too much, you're going to do these kind of things. But again, if you look at the entrenchment of religion in the world today, it's unbelievably scary because this, I call it a spirit. This spirit has woven itself in man's soul
for millennial.
That when you tell people the truth, they think you are the worst they've had. Yeah. I've read of recession. I've heard in 2004 they called you a heretic.
Oh yeah.
How did that feel? And gee, I would like to hear the experience about them calling you a heretic.
Well, I became proud after because it just means choice. It's the Greek word ariasos that means choice. That you have an opinion. The Greek word for eyes, ops or ophthalmos, where we get ophthalmology. Your view, my view was different. My perception is the ultimate reality, but not necessarily the ultimate truth. But your perception defines who you are. So when they came against me so violent, vociferously, and viciously, and start saying this guy is going to lead millions of people to hell, I stopped at to hell and just said this guy's going to lead millions.
My man.
Sometimes your adversaries can help prophetically define you.
Absolutely.
I believe that they're so afraid that my gift or my charisma or my energy is so powerful or positive that I'm going to lead millions not to hell, out of hell.
Absolutely, into a place where they were supposed to be.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And we're dealing with, particularly with the millennial generation, the people who will tune in to what you're offering through the internet with this brilliant idea and concept, are people who are curious and interested in human beings being human. Human beings. The beings is our essence. When I say essence, I mean your permanent rather than your accidental self. The permanent you is the infinite or infinite. That means you have no finish. You really didn't have an ending. You've always been like God.
Absolutely.
We're infinite beings trying to, now we're finite humans, but we're infinite spirits. We're not just, as they say, human beings looking for spiritual experiences. Yeah. We're spirit having an earthly encounter. We have a mind, we have a body, but we are spirit, not just a spirit. And the word spirit in Greek is pneuma, where we get the word pneumonia, or pneumon for lung, or pneumatic. We are breathers. We breathe life. So when somebody dies or transitions, we think they're gone. They're as close to you as the breath you breathe. Because we're all, when it says Jesus gave up the ghost, it means spirit, pneuma in Greek, he gave up the lung, the inhalation and exhalation that was contained or confined to the body.
Absolutely. And you know, when you're talking about the fact that we have always been, you know, the deja vu moments, when you go into a place, you almost can know what will happen.
Yes.
And it happens. You think, oh my God, I knew she was going to walk this way, he was going to come this way. I knew this person was going to ask me this. What is that?
That's the part of you that has always been and always known. We've substituted knowledge. As I said, ignorance doesn't mean to not know, it just means to not notice or not make note of or notation. We all know we're okay. We all know we came from God as gods and will return. Michael J. Fox, the actor, flew into Tulsa to spend some time with me over this whole gospel of inclusion. My favorite movie of his was Doc Holliday, but the phrase is Back to the Future. I didn't like the movie, but I like the concept. I think we all return to our future.
Absolutely.
Our future is the past, pre-existed, pre-human past, that is the infinite reality that we always exist. Everybody has this sense. That's why this whole, I think, thing about not dying. You don't die. You transition.
Absolutely.
We're afraid of it.
To the other,
from one level, one place, one space, one phase of yourself to the other. And you do that as we live. I'm evolving. I'm not overly certain. I'm very inquisitive. I self-interrogate, excavate. I'm investigating my own self.
So, the kind of literature that you read, you sound like a very well-read man. But which are the books that, when you read, you had this wow kind of awakening?
The Power of Intention, both Eckhart Tolle and Wayne Dyer. The Falling Forward, anything Deepak wrote. But I started with A Course in Miracles and 2 books, one by Bishop John Shelby Spong, Why Christianity Must Change or Die, and Neil Donald Walsh's Conversations with God. Those 2 books had profound impact. And then I started, because I keep about 8 or 10 books going all the time, because I read by inspiration more than information. I don't care how great.
I'm crazy everywhere in my car.
Reading, and recording ones, just listening and learning and expanding, loving, learning, and living. That those 3 are the 3 L's that make us.
Well, one of the books that really got me to think very deeply was The Celestine Prophecy. I don't know if you've read it.
I read it. I know the author.
It's unbelievable.
I didn't even understand when I first read it.
No, I read it 5 times before I really got it.
Yeah, it's profound.
It's just like deep, and it's like, and you go, you think, and then it made me so tired. I said, I'm gonna come back to it. Then I took a week and it said to me, remember, you said you're going to come back to me, and I went back to it again. But the 5th time, because I scribbled on my books, I said, oh my God, I need to buy a new copy so I can scribble what I've scribbled here to the new copy and get this awakening. And it happened. And
it's now 22 years old now.
That's amazing. I've got 5 copies that I've scribbled on all of them. Because the first one I didn't understand. I said, I'm going to buy a new one, and now it's like I go back to it and reference my notes from it. Now in Africa, we've got a leadership challenge. It's a very sad leadership challenge, because Africa is the beginning of humanity. As people say it, we did things that were absolutely magnificent, and now suddenly our leaders just disastrous. What is it that you think should be done to reawaken this spirit of magnificence in leadership?
Well, there's an a deadly negative emotion and commotion in the earth that always goes for the head, because in the head is the vision, the hearing, the speaking, the thinking, the sensing, the smelling. If you cut the head off, you've basically defeated the body. So in Africa, the largest continent on the planet, the cradle of the universe, of all humanity, this is the head. It is deemed as the tail. Evangelists have come over here to evangelize. There are more Christians in Africa than there are people on the North American continent. They're sending evangelists over to America to get us saved now. But we have this attitude, this is the dark continent with the dark people. They're ignorant and they're creatures and they're lost. That's a forfeiture of the true powerful, like Africans, like South Africans have more of the African American low self-image. The other part of the continent where they've never been slaves in the sense by the white man or anybody else, except wealthy landowners, there's a princely elegance all over the continent. The Africans that come to America are smarter than African Americans. They know the news, they know the history, they are on top of stuff. There's like all these geniuses, and we go, they're not somebody standing on the corner saying, man, I'm cool, dude. These guys come over here so smart. That shows us the caliber and character
of the continent.
Before it was called all these different countries. I think even in this country now, leadership is being disappointed. We don't have another Mandela right now, but there's one coming. It may be a female this next time, but we're doing the same thing here that they've done throughout the continent. It's so disappointing. That's only temporary. I tell you prophetically, that's going to change. Africa will live out the true essence of its purpose as the father of humanity, as the parent of all human culture and character. The elegance and eloquence of stately human beings being human is going to occur, I think, in the next, like the millennial generation.
Absolutely.
That's not affected by slavery or slave owners or oppression or even religion. These kids
are sharp, yes?
Yeah, they came out knowing something. They don't listen to our
I've got a 5-year-old boy, he searches stuff for himself on the internet. He asks me questions that I'm thinking, oh. And then he teaches me stuff. He tells me about this base, they're from South America. This is what they feed on. And I say, how do you know this stuff? He says, my brain tells me, Daddy. My brain tells me. I said, come on, Charlie.
They use this like it's a part of a hand or an arm or a leg, like it's part of their body. They look right through us to the cloud. They don't see religion in parents the way. They see the cloud. They see the mysticism or mist of the cloud. It's iPhone, iPad, iCloud. They're into this vision and the capital I, who they are.
Absolutely.
They know it.
Absolutely.
It's stunning.
Without a doubt.
I'm very encouraged by them.
Bishop Carlton, me and you could have this for the whole evening. It has been a pleasure and a privilege. And by the way, off camera, I'm going to come spend time with you.
Do it.
Just to come and drink from your well of wisdom. It has been an honor and a privilege to have this conversation with you. Thank you very much for coming back to your roots.
Yes.
And coming to drink from our well and also share this great journey that we've been. And for me, I would like to say namaste.
Namaste, senor. Ashe.
What can I say? This has been the most profound conversation. I'm going to meet him. I'm going to go to the States and spend a week with him, drink from his well of wisdom. And I'm going to come back to this beautiful continent and give you this transformational content that we promised to give you. Because what GCTV is all about, it's about transforming the world, one inspired and transformed person at a time. Not only inspiration, but the transformation not only of the mind, but of the spirit, so that we can tap into that essence of who you are, get to that level of transformation where you self-actualize who you are. You need no apology. You need not bow down to anybody, but you stand in your magnificence and you deliver that greatness that you are brought here to come and deliver. This is Billy Selekane. Say, catch you next time.